I will levitate over this table in 3, 2, 1. What? I didn't say how long I would levitate for. I was actually talking about the crystal ball, known by fortune tellers and mystics for its source of power. Watch. Penn and Teller, how good are they really? Stupid ass question to ask in the first place, if you ask me. Same thing with the Richard Turner video, right? It's like, who the hell needs to ask that question? But the question will be asked, the question will be answered. I think rather than answered if they're good or not, or how good they are, I would say the better question to ask is, why are Penn and Teller so good, right? The thing with Penn and Teller is if you look at the evolution, at their very beginning, right? As far as I've researched, right? Penn started out in circus, right? He started as a juggler. He started off as, he learned like some clowning and stuff like that. So Penn's kind of side of the thing is from very, very physical art forms like juggling, dangerous stunts, you know, juggling glass and all this kind of stuff. Whereas Teller's side of things, I think he comes from kind of a more traditional magic, I'm a magician, this is what I do. So when you bring these two factors together, you know, it's bound to create something very interesting. And especially with the fact that, you know, as soon as they kind of got together, they realized there's this divide between, oh, the silent magician that's real, like, sleight of hand heavy and all this stuff, and the really big, loud, you know, performance-oriented, you know, voice that drives the whole show. And I mean, the combination of those two works so well, and that's why they're so successful. But I think even deeper than that, if they came out and did that act, right, they just did, oh, he's a silent magician, he's a big guy that does the stuff, and they did what every other magician does, you know, big illusions, doves, da-da-da, they wouldn't have been that different. I mean, it would have been an interesting dynamic, but it wouldn't have been that different. But if you listen to their interviews and them talking about their thoughts on magic, you'll understand that they actually look at magic in a very different way than what the status quo was at the time. And even nowadays, it's still being pushed. Their whole thing is that the idea of fooling someone and expecting them to believe that you can do something that you actually cannot do, or the idea that the audience should leave the show with certain beliefs about reality that aren't true, to them is repulsive, to them it's immoral. So their whole idea, and actually when I started this YouTube channel, I had very different thoughts, but now the more I've done this, the more I've analyzed, the more I've performed, I realize that they're pretty much bang on the money there. Their whole idea is that people know their tricks. You should tell people their tricks. You should tell people that this isn't real. I'm not claiming it's real. If someone goes, yeah, but you didn't, you used the mirror, then you used the string or whatever, their answer would be, duh, you know, that's what we do. We do tricks, and if you think about it enough, you can do it too, right? So their whole thing about magic and it being this really closely guarded secret that, oh, you know, I can do stuff for real, you know, it doesn't make sense to them. And I kind of start, like, at the beginning, I used to think, you know, revealing magic was terrible. If you're just doing stuff for the sake of revealing, it's terrible. It's just hurting the art. But at the end of the day, if people know that it's fake, right, and you're pretending that it's real, you're just insulting your audience's intelligence. And I think that was why they became so successful was because people found it a breath of fresh air, right? Here's two magicians that are really skilled. They have these crazy performances, and I'm not even going to try to break down as to why they're, entertaining to watch, because you just watch one of their shows and you'll understand, right? They're just really entertaining to goddamn watch. So, but it's these guys that can produce all this entertaining material, but they're not taking themselves seriously. They're being truthful. They're open. They'll openly talk about methods and stuff at interviews. There's no, they're not pretending that you the spectator are down here and me the magician I'm up here and you're never gonna know what I know. They don't have that approach. And I think that's what made them so successful. That's what made them so big in the first place. They got kicked out of the Magic Castle, I believe, because they were revealing magic. And then later on, several years down the line, got, the many magic prizes and the best magicians of the year or whatever the hell. I haven't looked into what awards they've won, but they've won awards, right? So even the magic community was like, oh, you guys are revealing shit, get out of here. And then they realized, oh no, okay, it's actually like a legitimate form of magic. So that aspect of it, I've really come to appreciate. The aspect of being cognizant of the audience and what their perception is. Because, Penn and Teller said it beautifully. Penn Jillette said it beautifully. If you pretend that what you're doing is real, okay, then there's two types of people. There's one that's going to be skeptical. Maybe they're still fooled, right? Let's say both people are fooled. One is skeptical, and he'll say, well, it's bullshit. I don't know how he does it, but it's clearly something. The other guy is going to get fooled and believe that you really can do real magic. And who the hell wants that, right? Who wants, as a performer, and there are some people, but I don't see the point of someone actually believing that they can levitate something in the air. I don't want to be lying to people. I don't want to create, miseducate people, so I totally see that point of view. The other interesting thing that they always talk about is the morality of danger in magic, right? So they talk about how David Blaine, for example, will literally put his life at risk for a show, and they think that that's immoral. This I don't necessarily agree with, right? Because just because, they're saying that you shouldn't get the audience to be an accomplice in the immoral act of you risking your life for entertainment, right? This is what I disagree with. I think, I understand where they're coming from, but I just don't see. Listen, in every part of society, every art form, there's going to be people that are just crazy, okay? And some people, they will do crazy stuff like risking their life, skydiving, wingsuit flying, parkour jumps over buildings, people will do this kind of stuff. So whether people are watching or not, I mean, technically, if there was no one watching, you could argue that no one would be doing it. But I would argue that these people do it at that level. You don't just risk your life just for the sake of risking your life for people to watch. I think at that level, people would be doing it regardless because that's their art. They're so passionate about this thing that that's what they want to do. And at the end of the day, everyone's free to do whatever the hell they want, So if David Blaine wants to, put his body through crazy amounts of stress and try to hold his breath for 10 minutes straight and then almost drown, listen, I'm gonna watch it. I have no problems watching that at all. If some shit happens, and hopefully nothing ever happens to anyone, but if something fatal happens, I wouldn't feel guilty for watching those things because it's not like I was the one calling out, bro, do it. I want you to do it, bro. Hold your breath for longer. Hold your breath for longer. He would have done that whether I'm there, whether it doesn't matter. So my point of view on that aspect is that Penn and Teller will argue that everything they do is safe. Even if it seems dangerous, it's safe. And I can respect that, but I just don't necessarily think that if I'm watching Stora, which is like a parkour group on YouTube, and they do crazy jumps over buildings, I don't feel guilty about that, even if something terrible were to happen, because this is their guy. These guys do that regardless. Parkour is their life. That's their art. That's what they live for. So for someone like that to then, they're gonna do that regardless. All right, that's my point. So yeah, man, Penn and Teller, absolute beasts, right? They combine everything, all the performance arts together, the writing, the scripting that goes into it, the storytelling, the emotional roller coaster that they can create is absolutely nutty. In terms of skill set, in terms of pure sleight of hand, I have never. I mean, they do some crazy stuff. Some of it is very, very technical. But like, let's say take cards, right? I've watched Penn do really, really bad handling of card moves, okay, on live television. But it wasn't about that. It was about the performance. It was about the story. It was about the routine. It was about everything, the experience, right? As I've been saying for the last while, right, it's not about the tricks. It's about what the experience is. So if his, force is just not on the same level as someone like Danny Ortiz, I'm not going to say that he sucks, right? Because there's so much more that goes into it. And I think these Penn and Teller, they're like the greatest example of that, right? I mean, listen, they have some crazy sleight of hand in certain routines. They cup some balls. It's very technical. They have a lot of technical stuff. So I'm not even saying that they're not technical. I'm just saying that there are some things that, I could do better. But there's like 99% of all the other shit that they do that I couldn't even, begin to start doing, right? So their performance level, the way they orchestrate everything. I was talking to Dev, which is the guy that I reacted to from Fool Us, my last reaction, and he said that when he went backstage at the Fool Us at the Penn and Teller Vegas theater, they had like engineers working like full-time jobs, coming up with different routines, different gimmicks, different mechanisms. So it's a whole team, all right? So it's at this point, they're multi-millionaire, billionaire type guys that do shows every night, and they have whole teams to build everything they need to build, and all they have to do is go in, come up with an idea, get people to work on the props. They do the writing, maybe some other people help, chisel it out. Like, so it's a full thing, At this point, it's no longer just Penn and Teller. But the way they're going about it, the way they found out, like they basically thought about what's the audience's perception of a magician, right? If you hate magic, what do you hate about it? It's the fact that it's so overdramatic. It's so taken seriously. Everyone pretends like they can do all this crazy shit when they can't. So people are like, it's bullshit. I don't want anything to do with that. When you go to a Penn and Teller show, they're telling you it's bullshit. They're literally like, this is why it's bullshit. And then they'll show you how to do it, or they'll show you a cool way that they've come up with to do it, or they'll show you a crazy performance based on that concept, or whatever the case may be. So you're never left feeling like, oh, I'm below these guys. These guys think they're up here and we're down here. They always bring you up to their level. They always assume you're as intelligent as they are. And I think that's what makes them so attractive to everyone. I think that's what makes their show so great. It's that it's based at the very basis. It's based on that relationship with the audience that a lot of magicians overlook, right? And we can talk about the technical stuff. We can talk about their performance side of things. We can talk about things like that for ages, because they're just they have so much variety. I mean, I can't even imagine like the amount of variety that they can work with. They do stuff, they'll do a card thing, then they'll do a thing with bear traps, then they'll do a thing, and then everything's with fire swallowing, then they'll do a thing with juggling broken bottles, then they'll do a thing with, a bullet catch. Like, it's just so much variety that it's insane how many different facets of magic they're able to master and able to add into their persona and into their routines. But again, as I said, it's a whole team, it's a whole big productive effort of everyone that makes all these things work. For me, what's fascinating is them starting off, like just the idea of one big juggling guy meets this kind of shorter magician that seems to perform almost always in silence, and he's like, you know what, this would be pretty cool. Let's team up. And then they start working on this, and then they've been doing this shit for 40 years. I mean, like that to me is maybe over 40 years, I don't know, but that to me is as insane as everything they come up with. Like the amount of like, oh, this is what's going to be good, and then they just sit down and they just write and they just come up with everything, and it leads them to one of the biggest shows in Vegas, multi-season TV show, huge megastars, crazy talents. That's to me like the most insane part of it, right? Like the whole process to get from like complete nobodies to we are like the pinnacle of magic. That process to me is more magical than their magic, their actual magic routines. You know what I'm saying? That's to me the most fascinating thing, because it's so hard to hate them because they're so honest, they're so authentic. You could disagree with them, like I disagree with them about the morality of doing dangerous stunts. I agree with lying to the audience. I'm not super down with that, But yeah, like you can disagree with them, but you can never be like, they are what they are. Like they're super authentic in every performance, and they strive to be in every performance. So I think they're like some of the best guys right now in the game, absolutely. And they started off with doing these in the climate that they were at. They started revealing and performing things like those stage, box routine where they show, they do it with like clear boxes. So they show Teller like sliding in and out of the boxes and going under the stage and, like popping up in the next one. And, they're doing the cups and balls with the clear cups, That's purely just exposure of crazy sleight of hand or crazy mechanisms. And that's what I think catapulted them. But nowadays, they don't always rely on just doing that, They always say, like, sometimes the method is more interesting than the effect, but a lot of the times it's the other way around. So, they have that balance where they're not just exposing magic for the sake of exposing magic. They'll kind of, do like a whole, they mix and match. And I mean, listen, to me, they're like some of the most inspirational people to look up to. No one will ever do a pennant like you can never have another guy or another team that does what they do, right? They're so unique. That's what makes them so good. So yeah, when it comes to stage, I mean, Penn and Teller are like, you could argue they're the best guys in the world. You could argue that. I wouldn't take anything away from you if you claim that. I'd be like, yeah, I can't really argue with that. They're up there for sure. David Copperfield, he's got his own style. It's a completely different style. It's his style. It's the big stuff. It's the most flashy stuff. It's the super dramatic stuff. But I think Penn and Teller were hugely instrumental in making magic. People understand that, magicians, the relationship between the magician and the audience has to be one of like mutual respect. Like if the magician respects you, then you feel like you want to respect him and his art form. And that's why a lot of the times when people talk about hecklers, I kind of think that a lot of the times people getting heckled, it's oftentimes the magician's fault, Not always, but it's more times than you'd think. It's the magician's fault for trying to portray something in a false way, clearly unauthentic way. The card isn't, vanishing, okay? So don't, the card's not... So that kind of like lying directly to the audience and expecting them to believe the lie is the thing that a lot of people hate about magic, right? And I think Penn and Teller bridge that gap beautifully. So that's my thoughts about Penn and Teller. How good are they really? There's some beasts, man. Tell me what you thought in the comments below. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, tell me why. And also let me know who else I should review next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.